Welcome to a guided hypnotic experience to give you a little bit of flexibility when it comes to your sense of identity, to help you release fixed ideas that are keeping you stuck in familiar patterns of thinking. If you're limited by a story which has been running inside of your head, or a sense of what it is to be you, that just, you don't particularly like it, but it just kind of feels as though it's been there forever, that it's just the cards that you've been dealt. If you're ready to explore a wider sense of, let's call it your personal possibility, to visit the infinite expanse of potential, that's what this session is designed for. It's to help open you up to new pathways of awareness that can kind of loosen that rusty hinge. So it's perfect for anyone who's interested in personal development, in self-growth, in transformation of themselves, but particularly if you're facing fixed ideas which seem to be keeping you stuck in ways that you would honestly prefer not to be. So with that in mind, please find a comfortable place. Allow yourself to settle in. Find somewhere that you're reasonably sure you won't be disturbed for the next 20 minutes or so. And prepare to engage in a deep shift in your personal perspective. As with all hypnotic inductions, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. So please, please, please only listen when it is safe and appropriate to do so. Do not continue with the recording if you are driving, if you're operating any kind of machinery. Only listen when it's safe and completely appropriate to do so. And so, as you settle into this moment that belongs to you, or perhaps the moment that belongs to the you who is doing the noticing. Noticing the you who is settling into the moment. You might want to invite yourself to feel a kind of shift, a gentle shift, a movement that happens not quite through you, but not entirely outside you either. As though the noticing has its own way of noticing before you realize you were the one being noticed. And as that drift drifts forward and back and forward in a way that touches something just slightly behind, you might sense the beginning of a familiar thought. A here we go again changing, the thought reshaping before the you who used to think it fully arrives. And the you that is thinking now is not entirely the you that thought you were the you who once thought it. And when was that? And in the subtle overlap of these shifting versions, the idea of you can loosen by a breath or two. And as the breath moves in and out, you may find yourself here, and then a little deeper, and then slightly above where you were, wondering if your eyes will close now or in a few moments. As though depth can rise and surface can sink, and the place between becomes the place you drift through without choosing. And somewhere inside that drift, a recognition moves of a thought changing shape. Because the one who sees the thought is no longer the one who once lived inside it. And the experience that lived around that thought finds the edges softening as the one experiencing steps slightly aside from the one who once stood inside. What is the you that notices the thought that is not the same you who used to be inside it? Trusting yourself even more deeply. And as that softening continues, you might find the familiar frame of something in your life hesitate, as though waiting for the you it was shaped around to return. And discovering that the you returning is not quite the same version that left. And the notion of a personal challenge, or a stuckness, or a thing you've carried, begins to feel less like a thing and more like a place you once stood, a place you looked from in a moment that no longer holds the same coordinates, as though the category you placed around it was the only category that existed from the angle you once inhabited. And the angle now moves differently, so the category blurs, and the thing turns into something with more space and more substance. As time folds, the now touching the then, and the then drifting forward into the now you'll meet later. The sense of when an experience belongs loosens. And the you who is shifting before the you who shifts has realized the shift began. As though change happens in the corner of an awareness that arrives after the changing is already underway. And you can drift a little deeper. With every breath, exhaling tension. Or you can come slightly upward or dip into a space that is neither deeper nor higher, but a place between places, where the mind sometimes goes when it revisits a moment it hasn't had yet, and returns to where it was from a place it hasn't reached. And each time you return slightly differently, as though the returning is part of the changing that you don't have to notice until it's already done. Because you can trust yourself. And as all that moves within the shape of the space that moves through the noticing, you might sense the experience of you stretching into a wider version of itself. The earlier you and the emerging you blending softly with the one who watches them both, until the distinctions become gentle and the movement becomes fluid. And the fluid becomes effortless, and the effortless becomes inevitable. In some quiet and natural way, that even the smallest movement, the slightest leaning towards something that matters, can feel surprisingly good. Not because you force it, but because the part of you that moves is the part of you that grows. And when something in you shifts through lived experience, the identity that follows behind it reshapes itself without needing to be persuaded. Courage doesn't need to be loud or dramatic. Sometimes it feels more like a gentle alignment with something inwardly true. And as the days pass and that alignment becomes easier to sense, you might notice how new openings appear, all on their own. Little moments, little chances, small invitations from life that seem to arrive in the exact shape you're ready to step into. And one of those moments comes close enough to touch, you may find that reaching out toward it, even just a little, feels like nourishment, feels like rising energy that comes from following the movement already happening inside of you. And you might also begin to recognize that when something feels right to do, doing it restores energy. And not doing it drains. Opportunities don't demand anything from you. They simply offer a direction that matches the becoming already unfolding in you. And each time you lean, even slightly, in that direction, that sense of you becomes fuller, clearer, more alive, because experience shapes identity in a way thinking never can. And all of this can continue gently, naturally, in the background of your days, a soft pull toward what wants to grow inside. A quiet courage that expands, one small moment at a time, not through effort, but through effortless truth, intuition, that moving toward what feels right, what feels good, what feels like coming home to you. And perhaps somewhere ahead, in a moment not yet lived, but already forming, the you moving into that moment may feel just a little more open or wider or quieter or simply different in a way that cannot be compared to a before or an after, because the one arriving will not be the one who left. And the one who left was already shifting in ways that will feel obvious only when you look back from where you have not yet been. And so, as you contemplate, in this moment of deeply restorative silence between the thoughts, you might recall certain elements of what I've spoken, and other parts may come back now or earlier or later in dreams or what feels like dreams. Some to never return, just to sink within, integrated into every cell, into every nerve and fiber of your body, the newness that is the you-ness. Because everything is changing. And you can find courage there, now. And so in a moment, I'm going to count up from 1 to 5. I'm going to bring you back up to a state of full and present awareness. Only as quickly as all the pieces can integrate inside of you in the right way, in the right manner for this particular moment in time. And so on 1 now, feeling absolutely wonderful to be the finest version of yourself. On 2, feeling free. On 3, as free as a bird soaring in the sky. On 4 now, it's like fresh spring water is bathing through your eyelids, whooshing through your mind, through your veins, through your arteries. And on the next number 5, opening your eyes, taking in a good deep breath, having a good stretch, shaking off that sensation and allowing everything to be incorporated within the way that makes most sense to you in this moment in time. Thank you very much. I hope that was a curious experience that you can allow to percolate over time.